As I'm editing this video, we just got the news that Caitlin Clark will be sidelined for at least 2 weeks with a left quad strain. Now, at this point in time, we don't have too much information on the injury, except that it is a new injury. This is not the injury that she was dealing with during preseason, but I just wanted to give you guys that update because it's obviously one of the biggest news stories of the day, but I don't have too much information on it yet, so I'm going to gather what I can and give you more in tomorrow's video, but I wanted to give you that update before we jump into today's video, which has to do with the WNBA officiating. It's all about the referees. I feel like the two might tie in together. So enjoy this video. There's the update, and I will have more for you guys tomorrow. What's up, you guys? I'm Rachel DeMita, and welcome to the Courtside Club. With the controversial ending to the Fever vs. Liberty game, many WNBA fans are calling out the referee problem, and they are demanding answers and they are demanding changes. Now, if you guys want to hear my full reaction and my thoughts on that game and the final calls of that game, then make sure that you check out yesterday's video. But for today's video, I wanted to share with you guys an article that I found that honestly gives us so much insight into the WNBA referees, how they are hired, how much they make. And there's one section that really stood out to me, and they break down essentially why they are making the calls that they make. And they also talk about the influx of new fans flooding to the WNBA. They talk about Caitlin Clark a little bit. This article to me was really telling. It actually came out in January, but it was published by SB Nation, and it's entitled "How WNBA Referees Are Scouted, Trained, and Held Accountable Explained." To summarize for you guys, there are two people that they interview, and they have worked within the NBA and the WNBA referee sphere for the past 20 to 30 years. And now they are kind of at the head of these WNBA referees. So they are giving insights into everything that goes into the job. So they start off by sharing that the officiating in the WNBA became as hot button of an issue as any. Heated debates surrounding the league's physicality dominated the headlines, particularly when Indiana Fever star rookie Caitlin Clark was subject to several intentional fouls. Now, they also brought up Game 5 of the WNBA Finals. We actually made a whole video about that as well, because there were some suspect calls at the end of that game, and a lot of people felt like the WNBA Finals were actually rigged because Kathy Engelbert was also wearing a dress that had the New York City skyline on it. So there was just a bunch of things that seemed kind of fishy. Now, where the article starts to get interesting is where they talk about how does one become a WNBA referee. And it says every WNBA and NBA referee's journey is different, but they all share the same foundation, a stint in the G League. Now, they go on to say that in order to even get to the G League, there are essentially scouts that go out and scout referees, but the scouts are in high school gyms, they're in college gyms, they go to the National Intramural Recreation Sports Association clinics, and they're out there looking at a lot of referees who are just getting into it and just getting started. I guess what's happening is there could be an NBA referee scout at any high school game. And I know that that was something that was going viral on Twitter when we were talking about the referees who were refereeing the Fever and Liberty game, that one of the referees seems like his only experience was actually refereeing high school games. Now, I will put this out there, you guys. I don't want any of you guys hunting down the referees and making threats to them. Also, what you'll see in this article is that it seems like a lot of them are kind of being told what to do. There are other people pulling the strings above them. So by no means do I want you to take this video and use it to attack referees, which is kind of the fact with all of my videos. I don't want you guys to ever use my videos to go and attack other human beings, whether it's players, coaches, referees, all of the things. I'm just putting that out there. But they basically say you can essentially go straight from being a high school ref, and then you go and referee in the G League, and then you can get upgraded to refereeing in the NBA or in the WNBA. And one of the people that they're actually interviewing, he essentially said that he wrote a letter to the NBA, and he was essentially just a teacher, and he found out that referees got paid a lot more, and he had a passion for basketball, so he wrote a letter to the NBA and then eventually made his way into refereeing for the NBA and was there for many, many years. Now, the next section of this article was the one that made my eyeballs go like, okay, What is going on here? It said how the rapid growth of the WNBA has impacted officiating. 2024 was a year of unprecedented growth in viewership in the WNBA, a substantial amount of which can be attributed to Caitlin Clark, who took the basketball world by storm after an all-time college career. And now McCutcheon, who is the man who I said was a substitute teacher, he wrote a letter to the NBA, ended up working his way up, and it was an NBA ref for many, many years. Here's what he had to say. This past season, many people criticized referees for the amount of physicality that is a part of today's WNBA game, urging officials to better protect players who are subject to hard fouls. But as directly as they may be involved, it's sometimes not entirely their call. This is where it gets interesting. I think sometimes it's misunderstood that referees make those decisions about the style of play and the interpretation of the rules. That's not true. What actually happens is that we have a competition committee for stakeholders, coaches, governors, and general managers, and that competition committee is the committee that dictates the state of the game. And this was something that I actually tweeted, and a lot of you guys were saying, this is why it's rigged, this is why it's rigged. Basically, what I gather from this is there's a committee that is saying what style of basketball they want to allow, what is okay, what is acceptable, what is not, and the referees are following that law. What I also gather from this is that the league is basically saying, it can be this physical, let it be this physical. The problem that a lot of us have with the referees is it's either very physical and they're calling everything, or they're missing calls. There seems to be inconsistencies in how the referees are calling certain games. But this in itself, I kind of hated the fact that it opens up with a competition committee for stakeholders. Stakeholders is the first group of people that this referee mentions. Stakeholders, coaches, governors, and general managers. Those are the people calling all the shots. One significant point of internal discussion in the league has been legislating screen setting. This one made me laugh out loud because if any of you guys have been in any of my watch parties for the games, I am always dumbfounded by how many times they call fouls on screeners and how many illegal screens are set in the WNBA. When you set a screen, you have to give the defender a step, okay? So many players do not do that. Secondly, a lot of teams do not communicate with one another on defense, so sometimes a player will have 4 steps in advance, like the screen is legally set, but this player, and we saw it with Sony Citron, will slam into somebody setting the screen because their teammate is not calling out the screen, calling out that the screen is coming. And essentially what the WNBA refs call, if you fall on a screen, I don't care if you're the screener and you fall down, if you're the one running into the screen and you fall down, they will call a foul on the opposite person. I don't care if the size discrepancy is different. It's so bizarre to me. And you guys, this is a new drinking game. If you want to get absolutely plastered every time you're watching the WNBA, see how many times they call a foul on screens. Now that I've told you this, it's gonna be maddening when you watch the games. So this ref said, because we're offensively driven and we have so many screens in our games, we're constantly making sure that we're balancing the defenders being able to defend as well as the offensive players being able to do what they want to do without being illegally impeded. And then he reiterates once again, and this is where it starts getting sketchy for me, and I also don't know why this is something that needs to be brought up in an interview like this because it sounds sketchy. Like, I'm not on the train of people who think that the NBA and the WNBA are rigged, but you can't also just say sketchy things. So he says, it is then our responsibility to make sure that we're living up to those standards through constant feedback from our stakeholders. That's what good officiating looks like. They get the feedback from the stakeholders and the feedback from literally everyone else, including the fans and players. They're not interested in hearing that. They go back to their stakeholders to make sure that they're doing a great job, which I get it if that is your job and those are the people that are paying you. But listen to this. The two referees also don't think that the WNBA's officiating is more inconsistent than the NBA officiating. Instead, they believe that the rapid influx of new eyes simply leads to increased scrutiny. They also said that mistakes are made, but they don't think it's any different from the mistakes that are made in the NBA or in college, but that college is officiated differently from the WNBA. So essentially, fans are just wrong in saying that the WNBA is officiating wrong because they've been watching college basketball and it's not refereed the same. If I just summarize essentially what they said. They also said the WNBA is very, very different different than 18 to 21-year-olds in college basketball. The game is very different. The way they play, the style of play, the strength, their ability to be physical legally is very different. If fans haven't watched the WNBA game until Angel Reese or Caitlin Clark or Cameron Brink, some of those new players to this league this year, they did have their eyes opened, I'm sure, in a very new way. And this goes back to my point about the referees and about the style of play and about the WNBA in general. I don't think that the WNBA should continue to lean on the fact that they're a physical league and make that the selling point of the league. A lot of people are saying like, oh, I love it. It's back to the 90s style of basketball when there were so many fights, this and that. No, it's actually not good basketball. It's not fun basketball to watch. And I call BS when they say that they're working to make sure that the offense can play offense. That's not true, because we've seen what the NBA has done, and they have actually made sure that the offense can run smoothly. The thing with the WNBA is it is physical to a fault. And they even say here that their ability to be physical legally is very different. I don't get that, because yes, they are bigger, stronger, longer. They have more of the ability to be physical, clearly, but you're not going to call it the same as college because just because they're bigger, we're going to let them be more physical. With all of this, at least January, this was written in January, they're not taking the feedback of any fans, of anyone who is actually watching the game. They are taking feedback from their stakeholders, which again, they listed in the first quote, the stakeholders, the coaches, the governors, the this and that, and then they make sure they report back to the stakeholders to make sure that they are doing a great job. But that's also why in my video yesterday, I'm tired of complaining if nothing's going to change. And this whole article to me basically said the reason that people are complaining is because they haven't watched the WNBA before, and these are just new fans who don't understand what's going on. Well, if you want to keep these new fans around, you need to make sure that there's a good product on the floor. And again, I'm not even blaming the referees individually, but there's clearly an issue, there's clearly a problem if it's not just one team. Also, by the way, it's not just the Indiana Fever. I know it's been the biggest story this week. It's not just them. Brittany Griner left a sideline interview to go yell at the refs. The Lynx spent their entire offseason in any interview being asked about, do you think the game was stolen from you from the referees? Those were the kind of questions media was asking them. You just had Coach Stephanie White after the Liberty game call out the referees in the most blatant way, say that it's egregious, it's disrespectful, but they're not listening to them. They're not listening to the coaches, they're not listening to the players, they're not listening to the fans, they're listening to their stakeholders. That's why I keep saying nothing is going to change. And I don't know when anything changes until the mindset and whoever's running all of this, the stakeholders, governance, whoever these people are, decide that, hey, the product of basketball on the court will actually be better if we stop leaning on the fact that, oh, the WNBA is just physical, get used to it. There's a lot of inconsistencies, and it seems like the only thing that they're trying to make consistent, and it was brought up in this article, and I think it's hilarious because I'm always talking about this on my live streams. The screens. They're gonna call fouls on the screens, like of all things. They have to make sure that there's no illegal screens. And yeah, there's a lot of illegal screens. So the girls need to do better, but that's the thing that's the thing. We gotta make sure that we I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm moving on. I can't stop laughing because it's hilarious to be like, make it make sense. So they go on to talk about the myth of no accountability for referees, and basically like every referee wants to get to this chief crew, they want to referee during playoff games and whatnot, and basically saying that there are consequences if they're not making good calls on the court. And also this referee declined to share exactly how much the fines are, nor what the NBA and the WNBA officiating salaries are, but he noted that they are a form of meaningful accountability. So I actually did a little bit of my own research to find out how much the referees are getting paid. And the best that I could find was the WNBA referee pay is significantly lower than that of NBA referees, which reflects the revenue and size differences between the two leagues. NBA referees earn an average of $3,000 to $7,000 per game and make between $180,000 and $550,000 annually. And it seems like WNBA referees are paid anywhere between $35,000 and $50,000 $100,000 for a season. Now, none of this is confirmed, but that is the best that I could find for you guys, and they do not talk about it here. And that's why I also don't want us to personally attack some of these referees. I think they're doing their job. If they are hiring referees who basically didn't have any experience but high school refereeing jobs, and then they did a stint in the G League, like, these referees actually aren't being paid so much. I do not want to go out and personally attack these people. I'm sure they have families and they're just trying to make a living, but there's clearly a problem. And from this article, I gained and reconfirmed with myself that not much is going to change. And not much is going to change until there's literally a shift in how they view the WNBA, how they view good basketball on the court. And I think that the fans are having a disconnect with the people in charge at the WNBA in the sense of what is actually a good product and a product that they want to see. And like I've said a million times, it is not just a one-team issue. I know the Indiana Fever has the most spotlight on them. They are America's team. But it's not just them who is complaining about the referees. It's literally across the board and how they call the game. With that, you guys, I will leave the link to this article in the description box below if you guys want to read all of it. I did the best that I could to summarize some of the parts and then also point out to you guys some things that really stood out to me. But of course, I want to know all of your thoughts in the comments below. Thumbs up this video if you enjoyed it, and click that little subscribe button because we upload new videos every single week. And with that, you guys, I think that's all I have for you today. Have a wonderful holiday, and I'll see you next time. Ooh, and